Hello, Butler 1199. My name is Dan, and I am the delegate from BH Call Intake. And I am very late and apologetically so to making a video about the last 2 days of bargaining. Very sorry, very sorry. Things got a lot busier than I would have liked. So, uh, before I get into it, just remember, this is not a replacement for talking to your delegate. It is an extremely important time to stay in touch with your delegate. Things change very quickly. And number two, this is not an official 1199 communication. This is just my thoughts and opinions. So, with that out of the way, what happened? Where are we at? What is going on? Well, uh, as many of you know, we had two back-to-back days of bargaining, Wednesday and Thursday. And now there is not bargaining. How did we get there? So we started bargaining on Wednesday. We had returned to bargaining after the hospital stayed away from the table for a long time. And, we can get into why they had been doing that. So we get back to it and we just start communicating through the mediator, trying to get back on some sort of footing where we can, start really negotiating. And so late in the day, around like 8:39 or so, they finally present us with a proposal. Now, we had spent a lot of that time also going over a lot of stuff on our end, just getting everything, having discussions, things like that. The democracy portion of our democratic organization, um, and so they came with their proposal, and their proposal was a reduction in their stance. They stepped their proposal down from their last proposal. Um, this isn't a huge surprise, but it's a little late in the game for ticky-tack stuff like this. So we had to bowl through it, and instead focused on ourselves and um, what we wanted to see, And for those wondering, like, their proposal, right, they had reduced some of their wage percentage numbers and got back to cutting the HSA, um, and a few other positions, while maintaining like still some very like stupid non-economic stuff, um, that needs to get dealt with. Um, so we go through we look through the proposal, and then we had a lot of discussions that day, and the next morning we worked to put together our proposal, get it out to them by noon, um, and we go over our proposal with them, and uh, we did such a good job creating a fair proposal that the mediator literally applauded us. Literally got up. Jesse's not being hyperbolic when he says that. They actually were very, very, very happy to see that we were taking this seriously. I think being remote, they were more prone to a lot of the narratives that the hospital had put out, and then seeing us doing this in a hotel where the scabs are and being peaceful, there's no fights that were happening. And yes, the hospital did set us up in a hotel where scabs actively were staying and going to work, but we weren't there for them. We didn't really care about them. We were there for business. And when the mediators saw that we were there for business and we weren't doing that kind of stuff, they started to realize that maybe a lot of the things that they were told about us were not quite accurate or grounded in reality. And they started really listening and understanding to what our sort of problems are, um, and getting a better picture of what the heck's actually going on. So we had given them our proposal when that, around 8:30 or 8:30 in the evening, the hospital got back to us. And by got back to us, I mean they ended negotiations. They had to formally say in front of the mediators and us that their line they used was we could not reach anyone who can make a decision. So we will not be able to continue negotiations. Obviously, they could get a hold of someone who can make a decision. They just didn't want to continue negotiations. So why? Why all these stall tactics from the hospital? Why are they trying to drag this out? And I think the that this really crystallized what their strategy, what their plan has been, and that is to get to June 1st, because they are convinced that when the healthcare goes out, we will crumble, that people will cross the line in droves, and they can get one heck of a cheap contract out of us. That is what they intend to do. That is their bold-faced strategy is we don't think you've got the stomach, so we're going to wait until your health insurance is out, and then you will come crawling back to us begging for anything left on the table. Now, I don't know about you, but I think it would be not in our best interests to crumble. And in fact, in many ways, I look at this as the hospital has put the decision to win in our hands, right? They have they have made it they have they have said if you can stay strong, you will win. Because the last piece of pressure and leverage that they had, they decided they wanted to actually get to instead of use as a looming threat while they try and settle a negotiation. So they instead just wanted to actually get there, thinking that it will completely break us and they can settle this really cheap and go back to Michael Wagner and get a big pat on the head, and probably a few giant bonuses. And but if we do stay strong, we come Monday and there's no more of that pressure, we can get back into that negotiating table and get this thing done. That's the facts of it. Um, I think, you know, and obviously this is a day after we had those negotiations. I spent the morning of today getting a health insurance plan through the Health Source RI system. I called them up, got a live agent right away. We went through the whole thing. Took about an hour or so. They have a lot of work to do on the back end while going through that process. So you just put on the hold music, eat a bowl of cereal or something. And it was pretty simple. It was pretty easy. I got on a plan for me and my wife Jess, who works in the kitchen. So we were both out here on the strike. Um, and we got on a plan and it was $50 for the month. And they even said by the next pay period, it's probably even going to be less because because with the last paycheck, I don't want to get into that. But it was $50 for the month for the both of us. Fantastic. It was that simple. Got to the picket line by 12. And then I started chatting with people. Where are people at? How are people feeling? And what I was getting was people who were disappointed that we weren't going to have a deal by the end of the weekend, but ultimately like, well, then they're clearly, out of their minds. And they are. They are out of their minds. Um, but I heard a lot of the same things of people who said like, well, I called up the health source, I got on a plan okay. Or, like some people are like, I didn't have a great option. It was very easy. I got a lot of my questions answered. I didn't have a great option, but I should be able to, do the Cobra if something comes up and it gets retroactive. And you can call them up, get a lot of those questions answered. Um, we have flyers out on the picket line that you can get, like little booklet things that you can get to get some of the information that you need for getting in contact with them. Um, and but it was what I did see was people's confidence coming back up as they realized that you know getting some coverage and getting these questions answered, started making them feel like, okay, yeah, they get a more realistic picture of like, yeah, I can be okay through this or that. And that was the sense that I got is, you know, that people are coming back together and being like, actually, we can hold this down. And, the hospital is not, they're like, they're not operating in good faith. They're out of their minds. And it was really good. I had a lot of chats. My throat is actually, I'm starting to get Murph throat. Uh, if I keep yapping away, but people were actually starting to really feel good this weekend. I think, get out there. Um, I think we want to show the hospital that they haven't broken us. They're not gonna break us. We're rock solid. So yeah, definitely show up this weekend. If you see me out of the line, feel free to grab me if you've got the questions about the health source. I'm not an expert. One of my strike captains, though, has done a lot of work with people. Um, and yeah, I mean, a lot of us out there are already getting this done. Um, so if you're still not feeling confident about the health insurance, please, 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 you can grab me. I'll be there in my silly hat. You can see it here. Um, and so, I also got to see the delegation from the Rhode Island congressman there, representatives from the offices of Jack Reed, Sheldon Whitehouse, Gabe Amo, and Seth Magaziner. They showed up on the line. That was a pretty big deal. We had the Republican minority whip from the House of Representatives. He showed up. Um, uh, Representative Kislak was there. There was also some other politicians who were there earlier in the day before I got there. Um, we had the Interfaith Council there. We had a council of rabbis, ministers, priests. They came, gave some speeches. I mean, the support that we have is outstanding. We have like a ton of sandwiches that showed up from the strike in Connecticut that didn't happen. So if you see boxes of sandwiches, I guess they're urging people to take them, take the sandwiches, too many sandwiches. Yeah. So, you know, we just gotta lock it down. That's all we gotta do. We gotta lock it down. We gotta stay strong, you know, stay close to your people, stay close to your delegates and strike captains. If you're a delegate or strike captain, stay close to your people, obviously. Um, Please show up and let's show this boss that there's no bullying tactics they can do that will break us, that we are a strong, united family, that we are not going to break down or budge in the face of this meanness, the lies that they tell. Obviously, they've already, gone out to the press to lie about what happened at bargaining. And, that will come back to bite them because they are lying about something that federal mediators were there for. And yeah, we uh we absolutely have this. We're gonna have radio ads coming out throughout the week. So listen for your friends. I think that's cool. I am not in them, unfortunately, even though I am obviously such a great talker and that everyone should be listening to my voice. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, we're going to continue to fight them in the media. We're going to continue to fight them at the state house, and we're obviously going to keep fighting them out there on the picket line. Um, as of the recording, there is no official dates to return to bargaining. Um, the mediators, had to go back to DC for the weekend, but they should be back and ready by Monday. Um, so hopefully we can get back to the table and they can stop this insane, this insane tactics that they've committed to. And realize that they have lost. That gamble is not going to work. Um, and they can actually sit down and start taking this seriously. So, thank you very much, Butler. Love to see you. please grab me and let's stay strong.